Hello guys, welcome to my channel Lucid Fanfic, and if you're new here, don't forget to hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you never miss out on our latest videos. So be sure to stick around until the end, and let's get started. Third-person POV. Izuku Midoriya was a good kid. At least he believed so most of his life, but it seems that God did not agree. He was finally 4 and could go to the doctor to find out his amazing quirk. He was in such a good mood, and so was his mother. He wished his father would also be here to be as happy as him and his mother were, but sadly he had died before he was born. Mother cried every year on the day that he died. Izuku always wanted to be a hero with his best friend Kaken, but it was today that he found out that he lacked the bare minimum to be one. He was quirkless. His mom cried so much. She just kept apologizing to the boy. The news crushed him for a bit as well, but the kid was resilient. He was not going to give up just yet. He would have to train, but with the help of his friends and family, he was going to manage. He could be a cop or a sidekick, right? Apparently not. Once they got home, his mother turned quiet. She brought out the steak knife and stared weirdly at him. She was scaring him, but Mom wouldn't do anything, would she? With a crazed smile on her face, Inko Midoriya crept toward her son. Several other kitchen appliances floating around her with her telekinesis. Her eyes bloodshot, the tears long dried. Around her a deadly aura. You piece of useless trash. You were my ticket to finally pay that monster back. Now that you can't be a hero, how will I make him suffer for leaving? You won't make enough money and be famous enough to remind him for what he lost. Inko was now screaming. What is she talking about? It didn't make sense. Who was he? Izuku's mind raced as he was backing up from his mom, who still had a lot of weapons around her and an evil aura. It took a few more steps before he hit the wall, and now he was really scared. He started hyperventilating and panicking. This is your fault. If you weren't so useless, I wouldn't have to do this, but you made me. You and that Hisashi both made me do this. Now, pay. Inko said each word laced with venom. His father? What did he do? He was dead, and this was not his mother. This was just some nightmare? An illusion? Sadly, he was wrong. His mother got close enough to reach the boy by his right hand with her free hand, and that was what she did. She grabbed the boy by the wrist and jammed the steak knife in his shoulder. The boy let out a horrible scream, only to have his mouth forcefully shut by his mother's hand. Izuku's eyes grew wider when he saw the large puddle of his vital fluid in the floor. His right arm was limp, he saw black dots coming as he started to lose consciousness from all the pain. Oh no! I don't want to die. These were the boy's last thoughts. Izuku woke up with a sharp pain in his right shoulder inside a confined space. He had thought that he was dead from all of the bleeding and darkness, but the afterlife couldn't be so painful, right? Izuku tried to break out of his prison when he actually felt something soft. This took him by surprise when he recognized the place he was in. The reason it was all dark was because he was in his own closet. The young child now started to assess his situation. His bleeding had stopped, but it still hurt as hell. The closet was probably locked from the outside by his crazy mother that seemed to be out for blood. He had done something to drive her to violence, and it had something to do with his father and his quirklessness. It didn't make much sense, but that was the least of his issues. Currently, he had only one thing to do: escape alive. Izuku tried to get into an almost sitting position and started to apply pressure to the door with his left foot and kicked with his right. He kept that up until the old lock gave in and broke, the door flying open, making a loud noise. Izuku fell out of the closet only to witness his mother walking in the room looking pissed. She grabbed him by the wounded hand and a yelp escaped his mouth. She smacked him in the face, then whispered in his ear, "Listen here, you useless brat. Count yourself lucky that you are even alive. I didn't want to deal with the hiding of a dead body, so now this household will run differently. You will be mute around me, and every noise you make will need punishing. Why do I give you permission to talk? You call me miss or ma'am. You will obey each and every of my commands if you value your life. Remember, my telekinesis can let me hold and move small objects, so I can and will grab and squish your heart if you ever try something. And it obviously goes without saying that you are not permitted to talk about this to anyone. Izuku shook his hand, frantically scared out of his mind, trying to show that he understood his mother's orders. From that day, time home was hell. Izuku was ordered to do all the chores home, go to school and act like all is fine and become his mother's slave. He obeyed Inko's commands the best he could, but every time he slipped up, new scars would appear on his body. His mother also got more aggressive over the years. She got drunk most evenings and give him a beating or cut him. It took a lot of energy to clean up the mess in his wounds, but if he wouldn't do it, he'd get for it later. Sadly, home was not the only hell in Izuku's life. Third-person POV. Izuku surely suffered at home, but it was not the only place of pain in his life. He had hoped that he would at least get support from his best friend Kakin, but clearly there was no good left for him. Bakugo met Izuku, his best friend, asked him a question. "Hey Izu, how'd your quirk diagnose go? Got a strong quirk, so we could be in our one heroes together." Kakin asked with such a happy voice that Izuku almost thought that not all was lost. With a little sniffle, the boy answered, "Kakin, I am quirkless." Now he had tears running down his face. There was a silence so deafening that Izuku started to worry. After a very long pause, Kakin started laughing, and by the time he was done, Izuku was not sure what to expect. Then it came. Kacchan stopped laughing and looked at his best friend before talking. "Sue, you are useless. You are a Deku." Tears went down Izuku's face, trying to form a sentence. Kacchan, but he was cut off. "Don't call me that, Deku. As a matter of fact, do not talk to me or anyone ever again. Spare the oxygen for us, the useful ones." Izuku did as ordered. Izuku POV. Izuku always remembered that as the worst day of his life. It was the day all came crumbling down. He was beaten and bullied every day in school, and at home he became a worker as well as Inko's personal punching bag every time she was drunk. That was almost daily. Izuku was now 9, and he was cleaning his newest wounds when he saw something weird in the sink where his bandages were soaking. Among the pieces of cloth were several little bolts, nails, and metal shavings. It now makes sense why Kacchan's explosion on my back and shoulder felt more painful than usual. He made an explosion on my body while holding these pieces of metal, and they got melted in my skin. Great, just great. Now I have to pull them out before the wounds get infected. Today was just another horrible day, and Izuku did not want to imagine what his mother's drunk tantrum would do to his already sore wounds, but as long as he behaved, he wouldn't get too hurt. He had learned that lesson the hard way. The one time he tried to escape his mother's wrath, she used her quirk's power to break his rib and pull it halfway out of his body, leaving it in the wound. Izuku had to put it back just so it would heal. Izuku had learned to stick himself and treat almost every kind of wound, so he was not worried for himself. After 3 hours of cleaning his wounds, making dinner, and doing his homework, Izuku heard the door slam. "Here we go again. Mom is drunk again. What a surprise. Better to get over it quickly." Izuku walked out of the room and into the living room. There his mother stood looking like a mess. She also looked mad. Must have been a bad day at work. Who am I kidding? She is drunk and mad every day. After the beating and another round of cleaning wounds, Izuku plopped into his bed. He wanted to scream, but then his mom would get mad after hearing his voice, and he would get a second beating. In school, he couldn't talk either because he got punished by Kakin or got detention from the teachers, forcing him to be late home and gain another beating. Due to all of this, Izuku got really quiet. When he stopped talking, he noticed a decrease in pain, so went sometimes for months not speaking. He even started learning sign language to avoid speaking as much as possible. The only thing that still brought him joy was music. Every night, before going to sleep, Izuku put on some black earphones and listened to music. It was the only thing keeping him sane. It was another day in this hell, and after getting called all kinds of names, it was finally time for lunch. Izuku ate on the roof, but when he got back to the classroom, he was greeted by Kakin and his minions. In Kacchan's left hand was a beautiful red flower known as a death lily, and the other was behind his back. With an exaggerated smile on his face, Kakin gave him the flower and started talking. "Congratulations, Deku, on your 12th birthday. Hope you enjoy my surprise." Then he took his hand away from his back and revealed Izuku's quirk analysis notebook. Izuku knew what would happen, so he didn't even react except bow and take the flower only to put it in his hair. He knew the meaning of the flower, obviously, but he didn't care. It was a beautiful flower. Then he watched as Kakin blew the notebook up that he worked so hard on. It was not the first time this had happened, so he didn't dare make a sound. Only silent tears ran down his cheeks. Kakin saw this and must have found it quite amusing because he and his lackeys started to laugh. The bully then went up to Izuku and started talking one more. If you're so desperate for a quirk, then why don't take a swan dive of a roof and hope to get one in your next life? Suicide baiting was nothing new, and Izuku had heard all of it before. He had lost count how many times he had heard that he should kiss the barrel of a revolver, become a human swing, to take a swan dive, or to become one with the rails via train. Without saying anything, he just sat back down on his chair, and his bullies walked away. It was after school on the way home when Izuku found himself getting attacked by some kind of sludge monster under a bridge. He didn't even really register that he was suffocating until he heard a loud voice shout, "I am here. Here to Kapoor, you pesky villain, and save this boy." "All Might," Izuku called out, still drowning. "This is it. I can finally ask him if I can be a hero." All Might punched the villain so hard that it exploded. Then he talked while collecting him. "Hello, young man. Are you okay?" Izuku was freaking out a bit, but answered, "Yes, thank you." All Might was about to go, but Izuku got the courage to ask his question. "Mr. All Might, I have a very important question. Can a quirkless kid like me be a hero?" There was a dreadful silence before All Might started to laugh. "Ha ha ha ha. I know you would die day one, just like 2 minutes ago. People like you should not be acting like they can achieve anything." With that, the number one hero jumped away from Izuku, leaving him in a state of shock. To say that he was crushed would be an understatement. A large part of him knew Kakin was right from the beginning, but hearing his hero say that crushed him. Izuku was home, changing his bandages when his mom opened the apartment's door. "Oh no, she is early, and I haven't even started cleaning or dinner. Brat, get out here right now before I tear you apart." Izuku knew her threats were never empty, so he ran into the room, covering Whis' wounds by putting on a hoodie. "Today I got fired for my excessive drinking," she said, more than mad. "Since I drink, because of your existence, I expect you to pull your weight and drop out of school to work and pay for everything." This was the last string, and Izuku snapped. For the first time in years, he ushered a word to his mother. "Are you crazy? I am 12, and you chose to drink. I didn't force you. I am done." Inko Midoriya went quiet with a bloodthirsty aura around her. Izuku felt like he was 4 again. He knew he had screwed up, but this was truly terrifying. Before the young boy could even mutter an apology, several clotheslines from the bathroom, and both of the woman's hands were around his neck, choking him. He tried to claw at his mother's hands, but the grip got so strong that he started seeing black dots in his vision. "Never talk again. Is this how I die?" were the boy's last thoughts before blacking out. Izuku woke up in his bed. His neck felt so sore, like he was still being strangled. It was over. From now on, his life would only be worse. He cried silently. He was not ready for such a horrible life, so he broke. His friend's suicide baited him for the umpteenth time. His hero rejected his dreams, and his mother would make him lose his whole future, not to mention that he was almost killed by her. Again. Then Izuku got up from his bed. He was tired. Maybe Kakin was right for once. His mother also wanted him dead, but didn't want to deal with the cops for killing her own son. It was time he did them and the whole world a huge favor and rid it of one more useless Deku. Izuku put on his red sneakers, threw on a black hoodie, cargo pants, and put music on. He couldn't be bothered to write a suicide note. Not like someone would read a Deku's note. First person Izuku. I opened the door as quietly as possible, walked out, and shut it. I don't want to wake Inko up. I walked toward my school. It is 4 a.m., so the first rays of sun will be visible. I reach the building and climb the fire escape staircase. I sit on a ledge, and my mind goes to one song that I put on. It fits with what I am about to do in a morbid way. With that, I too jumped without a parachute. It only took a few seconds for the darkness to engulf me, and I was finally at peace. Now I can maybe be reborn. Katsuki Bakugo POV. I woke up feeling great. I know that today will be another day of me being better than everyone. My lackeys always say how cool I am, so amazing, and soon I will be then #1 hero. I mean, there are only a few more months before we go to junior high and then UA. I wonder what I should do today at school, but first I have to get ready. I brush my teeth, get dressed, and go for breakfast. The old hag yells something like usual, and I answer the same way. This is getting really annoying. Like, how can someone be so annoying all the time? My life is so hard. Finally, I get out of this annoying situation and walk to school. I reach the last corner, and when I turn, I see a whole crowd. There are cops and a couple of heroes. Deku will geek out the minute he shows up, I think. I walk through the crowd of extras to see what the commotion is about. Then I see it. A mess of spattered vital fluid, a corpse with a black hoodie. It is disgusting. I want to vomit, but don't plan to make a scene. Can't show weakness. Whoever this loser was, he won't make me look like a beach. That wouldn't be hero-like. I was about to leave when I saw one of the dead kid's shoes. Red sneakers. The kind Deku wears. Now that's disturbing. The body has a sweater. I have seen Deku wear the same shoes, and now that I look closer, the vital fluid stained his face, but it has freckles and kind of green hair. Now the gears seem to click in place. Oh no. Death Arms POV. I was about to go patrolling through the streets, currently putting on my suit, when suddenly my comms went off. Apparently, Kamui Woods found a suicide victim by a nearby school, and he needed help getting civilians away for the cops to clear up the scene. I know how nasty those scenes could get, so I ran to help, but it seemed that I was a bit too late. Hundreds of people, mostly kids, were surrounding the perimeter. I jumped over the crowd and saw it. A horribly mangled body of a maybe 12-year-old. This is certainly the harder part of my job. I was briefed on the situation and helped with crowd control. The faces of kids and adults, recognizing the body, were disturbingly peaceful. Probably from shock. No, they were not shocked. Those were content faces. They seemed happy. Why? Why are a bunch of kids and adults happy to see a suicide? What the hell was this school? But Kugu POV. School was canceled and I felt like trash. I was sad. Was I sad? Why? I had told Deku to take a swan dive hundreds of times. I wanted this, right? Did I regret this, or was I sad for myself? Was I sad that he listened, or did I fear that someone would tell the cops? Could I still be a hero if I pushed someone to suicide? My emotions were a blur, and so were the next few days. It has been a week after his death, and we have been invited to the funeral. The old hag also mentioned that Annie Inko has not been acting the same. She's apparently drinking a lot, so we plan to visit her right after the funeral. I have been feeling it the whole time, and every time I hear his name, I remember the mangled remains of his body. Today we're going to buy a suit for the funeral, and I do not know what to think. Do I regret saying those things? No, I don't think so, but I just can't seem to get that nasty picture out of my head. It almost makes me vomit every time I think of it. God F it. Why can't I just forget? I don't deserve this. Why must I suffer so? The funeral is in 2 days, and we have to go buy some flowers. My parents suggested some death lilies, and I had to excuse myself. I ran to the bathroom from the sudden urge to throw up. All I can think of are all the times he was gifted those flowers. Something is wrong with me. Inko POV. He is gone. I felt good, but there's this nagging feeling. I miss him. I miss the feeling of beating him. It felt like I was hurting the piece of trash man I once called my husband. Now that they both have left, I have been drowning myself in liquor. I don't have a lot of money, but I can sell all of that hero merchandise for a quick buck. I had planned to kill him sooner or later, but I wanted to have some more fun before finishing the job, so I was stalling. Now that he took his own life, I regretted not finishing the job that evening. That made me so sad I started crying. It worked in my favor, making me look like a grieving woman. One cop asked me to identify the body, and even though there wasn't much, it looked like him. The only really recognizable part was the upper part of his torso, and I saw the scar I left. I felt proud. Sadly, the cop also saw said scar. When he asked if I knew anything about accidents or suicidal tendencies, I told him that I didn't know he was suicidal, and he might have tried hanging himself that night, but failed and chose Plan B. I totally played into the mourning mother act by leaning against the cop, crying and talking about how happy the brat acted. He bought it. Tsukachi Naomesa POV. Tsukachi just talked to a grieving mother. He had to ask her to identify her son's remains after he committed suicide. He would never have done this part of his job willingly, but he was the last in the office. He was there on scene, so he knew how gruesome it looked. If he could, he would have spared this poor mother the pain, but there was not much else to do. I had to ask her the standard questions about if he was showing suicidal tendencies before his death. Then I asked her about the neck scar the doctors pointed out should have killed him. She cried out what we all thought. A failed attempt. Then she leaned against me and wept, telling me how he was a happy kid. I didn't use my quirk on purpose, I swear on my badge and life. But the conditions were met, and suddenly I knew that she was not telling the truth. Why would a mother lie? About her son's mental state? I was now not sure what else she could have lied about, but I kept calm. I would have to look further into this. Maybe there was more to this woman than she let on. Third-person POV. It was a small and quiet funeral. It was a closed casket one. Only Inko and the cat Suki's arrived. Izuku, Midoriya's grave, was decorated by 12 red death lilies and left. Inko hoped to never have to see a single reminder of that piece of trash again. But Kago hoped that the dead boy would be reborn luckier. Mitsuki hoped for Izuku's peace in the afterlife. Masaru hoped for his son's best friend to be happy. Izuku POV. I've been falling for God knows how long. Time is weird here. Once I hit the floor, there was a split second of pain, and then darkness, and falling one more. It's just so dark. I want to scream, but for the first time, no actual sound came out. I'm literally trying to, but no sound comes out. It is a weird feeling. At the start, the darkness was so hot that it felt cold. Then it burnt. Out of nowhere, it turned ice cold. It felt like I went through all feelings. I just hope that this is not all death has to offer. If it is an endless void, but I keep conscious, then I might just go insane. I think it has been days. Might be weeks or hours. Time is weird here. I have started hearing voices, but they are not mine. Only whispers and murmurs. It is like the kids at school talking behind my back, thinking, or at least acting like I can't hear them. But these voices are not mean. I can't tell what they are saying, but I know that they are not malicious. They remind me of curious kittens and puppies. It's been a while. Or not. Time is weird here. The voices are growing louder. I hear all kinds of noises. Most animal, some human-like. They ask questions, but no matter how much I try to speak, no sound comes out. I think I'm going crazy. Voices in my head could be hallucination from the vital fluid rushing to my head, but wait, if that were the case, that would imply that I am still alive and not slattered on the pavement. But I felt the impact. Whatever. The point is that I have started seeing little creatures of what seems to be condensed darkness. It is weird, but so is everything else here like time. It was sudden, or was it gradual? I do not know. Time is weird here. I saw one of those shadows. Yeah, I named my insanity endless freefall hallucinations. Is that weird? The point is that I saw a big one. Like he is massive. The others also grew slightly, but this one was big from the start. He looks like a dragon. I will be the first one to admit. I took my own life by choice. For reasons. But getting mauled by some concentrated darkness/shadow dragon that might be real, or just me going crazy, was not part of the afterlife package deal. At least as far as religions go, I don't think I have heard of people believing that after death, there is dragons made from the abyss itself. It reached my arm with its head. It started opening its mouth. For the first time in what felt forever, I was scared. Suddenly, I felt something other than falling and weird temperatures. I felt the contact of its head touching me. I was about to feel its teeth as well. Good news and bad news. Good news, I might not be going crazy and seeing things that were not there. Bad news, it meant the dragon was not fake. Stop! I couldn't say a word, so I mentally yelled at the dragon, and it actually stopped. It looked at me, as kept falling down. The other shadows also stopped. Everything stopped. That gave me an idea. I mentally gelled once more, catch me. The dragon bolted so fast, I did not even feel it gently adjust under me to catch me safely. I stopped falling. I woke up. I woke up on a roof. Not just any roof. The roof that I jumped off. The roof of Aldera High. I pat myself up and down, making sure that I am real. I have it all. The black hoodie, cargo pants, red sneakers, and black earphones, but no music is playing for some reason. I also have a black mask and gloves I don't remember putting on. Looking around, I do see some more differences. The sneakers are a lot darker. The roof door is locked, and the roof is wet. It didn't rain when I jumped. I put the hoodie and mask on as I leave the roof via fire escape. I don't want to fall in a place with weird time again. I check my phone, but it's dead, so I run to the nearby train station. The clock tells me it is 3 a.m. July 29th, exactly 2 weeks after my birthday and the day I jumped. I am confused to say the least. I tried to leave when I suddenly felt a lot more lightheaded. Slowly walking out of the train station, I seemed to be drawn to the dark alleys. As soon as I was in the shadows, my head cleared and I felt much better. Maybe the abyss left some permanent nerve damage? I moved through the dark parts of the city till I reached a park with a pond. Considering my outfit changed, I fear that my body has too. I reach the water and look at the reflection, taking on my mask and hood. I have changed. My hair is now black, so are my eyes. I have lost my freckles, and I have a nasty white scar around my neck like Mom's last present. Considering I still feel half dead and tired, I decided to crawl in a darker alley to sleep. I seem to like the darkness a lot more than I should, considering I was in darkness for apparently 2 weeks. It has been 4 days, and that I know for a fact because time here is not weird. It seems that I have a quirk that activated when I died. My reaction was very mixed since I never had a quirk before, and it was a great experience, but then came the realization. Knowing that I wouldn't have received my quirk for God knows how long had I not been suicidal was horrific. And I know that near-death experiences don't count. That I know from experience thanks to my mother and Kakin. Talking about them, well, I don't think I want to see them. They're probably a lot happier, so it would be a shame to ruin this. Other things I learned are: 1. Direct light does me no good. After an hour or so, I will start feeling lightheaded and disoriented. Any longer will hurt like sunburns on the exposed skin, though no visible irritation. The sun does the job twice as fast and painfully. I seem to have some degree of light tolerance. If the light is weak enough, it won't do much, and clothes help a lot. 2. All of my scars are still there, but new wounds only hurt in light and heal almost instantly in the dark. My scar on my neck has left me permanently mute. Good thing that I was basically mute already and learned sign language. I also gain more speed and recover stamina faster in the darkness. 3. I have perfect night vision. I can see there better than in light, as a matter of fact. 4. My body seems normal, if not a bit too pale, but when I want, I can disappear, only to reappear in anywhere dark enough. Limited by only light, I can basically teleport. I am more or less one with the shadows, and the transition is almost natural. I don't seem to need to eat or sleep while in the dark, but once out I am back to almost human. I do like a heartbeat so undead. 5. Some of the little voices of the abyss followed me, and they look like little animals. I understand them, and using my mind, I can communicate. I think they see me like the leader as they follow all of my orders. 6. The abyss is only my subconscious. I can access it when I sleep, but the first time I did, I panicked so much I snapped right back out and hit my head against the wall I slept against. 7. Lastly, I seem to have my own kingdom. That is all that the light doesn't touch is mine. I can make things pop up from nowhere, and they can be used by me. I thought about weapons I would need, and they just appeared. Black like some edgelord's personal collection, but seeing and my quirk literally made me emo. That is no big surprise. I want to use these powers helping others like all those years. I try to be a hero, cop, or fireman. Considering I am legally dead, I can't be a vigilante or criminal. Besides, if Asmite is the #1 hero, then I do not want to be like him. I would much rather mess with heroes, but still help people. So vigilantism it is. First order of business was to find a nice place to stay, and I found an abandoned school. Creepy enough for most people to avoid, and 2 for criminals to stay in, as they can easily be surrounded without knowing, and way too cold and dark for homeless people. That is no problem for me. Many of the little shadow animals followed me and live in the school with me. I feel like an emo Cinderella. My idea is to use these little guys that blend in with shadows as spies and scouts. They talk to me telepathically, and they can teleport to the darkness, so they are quite versatile. I have no cash, food, or blankets, but I don't need those right now. Sakachi, Neo Mesa POV. It has been 1.5 weeks since I had that weird interaction with that woman Inko Midoriya. I still can't get the fact out of my mind that she lied about her son's mental condition. What else did she lie about that I don't know because of a lack of physical contact? The only other person that knows I used my quirk technically off the clock is my good friend Aizawa. I told him of the interaction, and he agreed that there is something more. I don't know why, but I have the urge to lead this investigation. Once I was done with all of the paperwork, I went to Izuku Midoriya's residence. I do not have a warrant due to a lack of probable cause, but if she lets me in, then I can discover the truth. We have made contact, so I can find the truth out. With me, I have Sansa. We arrived at the apartment building and walked up the stairs. I reach the door and knock. Nothing. I knock again. Nothing. You think she's home, Naya? My partner asks me. So I don't know, but we can wait. There is no rush. I answer my friend's question. All of a sudden, I hear a thump, like someone falling down. A yelp follows quickly. Now I know that someone is in there. I knock one last time. The door is opened by a drunk, Mrs. Midoriya. Good evening, Miss Midoriya. You probably remember me, but the main is Naomasit Tsukachi, and this is my partner Sansa Tamakawa. I receive a nod from Sansa. It took a minute for her to have an answer, but alas, she responds with a welcome and some mumbles before she lets us in. That was easy. Sorry, is this a bad time? I ask out of respect. No is all she says. Truth. I look around and see dozens of liquor bottles, Schock, Vine, and Jägermeister. A half-empty bottle of whiskey by the couch is visible. It is a sad sight to see. We all sit down, and the questioning begins. I remind her of her rights and ask if she would rather do this in the station when sober. She seems to have sobered up mid-conversation and states that she knows all of this. Truth. I ask some standard questions before moving to the ones about her son. So, would you say your son did not show signs of depression before his untimely death? No. Lie. Would you say he was bullied? I don't think so. Truth. Did your son ever mention any kind of issues he had? No. Lie. Would you say your son considered home as a safe space? I admit that one was not professional, but I can't stand listening to this. Yes. Lie. Ma'am, I suggest you to tell the truth. I have a truth-telling quirk. Form, there it is, all a blur. The next thing me and Sansa saw was the change in her face to some mixture of anger and pure insanity. Following that, several bottles flew at us as a faint green light surrounded the woman. I dodged the first one by ducking, and Sansa jumped to the side. The second bottle was broken, and it grazed my arm as I jumped behind the sofa. Several more flew at us as the woman yelled. He deserved it all. He just had to be useless. I only wish I had finished the job when strangling him. Me and Sansa coordinated and both pulled our tasers before standing up and aiming at her. Before I could fire, a Vine bottle connected with my shoulder, most likely dislocating or breaking it. Sansa got hit by a broken glass in the leg, but his taser connected, then did mine. I called for backup, and from there, I don't remember much. Just me putting cuffs on her, then ambulance and lights fading in and out. Finally, darkness. Tsukachi POV. I woke up to bright lights, beeping, and the smell of sterilizer. I'm in a hospital. If I groan in pain. You can say that again, Naya. I hear someone reply. I look to my left and see my orange-furred friend sitting in his hospital bed with several IVs on his arm and a large patch on his leg, probably where the glass bottle hit him. He also has a new scar under his shoulder. My own body is not much better. I remember getting hit by a blunt part of a bottle, and my right shoulder was most likely broken, so I have a shoulder cast. A glass shard also nicked my other arm, leaving a not-so-nice-looking mark. Good thing that we got a healing quirk doctor. After a whole week, I finally got back to work. I still have the cast, and Kenji didn't want me going back, but I insisted. I need to know what really happened because everything feels off. They seem to have already interrogated the woman, and she surprisingly confessed. Again, she told them that she brutally beat her son every evening until she fell asleep or got bored. She forced him to do everything around the house, forbid him to speak. If he did not do what asked of him, he was properly punished. The young boy had to treat his own wounds. She cut him often and used her quirk to torture the boy. She was also an alcoholic. The evening before he took his own life, she almost strangled him to death, leaving the scar on his neck. She is a true monster. She also mumbled something about how the boy was too similar to him, that when he was diagnosed as quirkless, she snapped. Yeah, she was doing all of that to the boy since he was 4. 8 years of abuse. And that raised a lot of questions. Did his teachers and friends not notice the symptoms? I will have to look into all of this further on a later date. Once my arm heals and I'm done with all of the piled up paperwork, it will take a couple days. In the meantime, she was taken to court and the judge ruled her legally insane. She was sent to a mental hospital. Izuku POV. These last few days have been fun. Considering I am not that strong as of right now, I have not fought a single battle. Instead, I have sent my shadow friends to every corner in the city. The goal is to set up a clear information network. Most of them are mice, rats, cats, and dogs. Others might see some starry animal while I have an extra pair of eyes. I use these to search for heroes during the night. They look realistic enough, if not looking carefully can't be distinguished from normal animals. I ask the shadows to follow them and update my mental map of their patrol routes. If they're in a fight, I teleport myself to see it. If I want to be a vigilante, I have to learn as much as possible about my potential allies or enemies, depending on their vigilante policies. I also checked out all police stations, fire departments, and hospitals. Plus, I can learn their moves and practice them in my free time. So far, I know that Rock Lock, Amplifier, Fourth Kind, and Eraserhead are available and safe to approach with minimal repercussions. These 4 were the night shift, except Fourth. He is only late on the streets when helping the community during some project if it takes a little longer, but he never runs from a fight, even if tired. Eraserhead was the only one to notice my little spy. I had sent a cat. He saw it and came up to pet it. He noticed the dark material it was made of, asked if it was another one of the quirked animals in a sad voice, and just grabbed him. He looked for a collar and found none obviously and started walking. While doing that, he kept mumbling about taking him in and adopting him, so my little ally jumped out of his hands into the dark, vanishing. A mouse nearby told me that he was visibly upset. Other heroes patrol include an overgrown chicken, the dumpster fire, and Edge Shot. They seem to patrol during the night without a set schedule or patrol route. There is also the early morning heroes, but I do not think I will be strong enough to keep my shadow friends in the sunlight for very long. It is now time to pull the next part of my plan. Using the animals, I search for crimes in progress. Then I teleport via darkness to any nearby hero and get their attention. Once they chase me, I can lead them to the crime scene. My shadows stall the villain until I arrive. That was the plan, at least till I am strong enough to fight criminals myself, but turns out my little friends are stronger than expected. They found a man robbing a young girl at knife point, but before I could reach, Amplifier the thug was running away from the scene without a single thing. He had bite marks, and dozens of black crows had pecked him badly. I decided to finish the job myself and teleported one ally in front of the man. I had my mask and hood on. He freaked out when he looked at me when I was made of the same thing my friends were. For dramatic effect, one of the crows landed on my shoulder. He was already trembling, so I decided to summon a lot more friends. The dude passed out. I tied him up with some shadow chains, took his knife with my gloves, and pulled him back to the crime scene where the girl was no longer. I got a warning that the cops had been called, and I heard sirens, so I left the man and his blade for them to collect. Then I waited till I heard them arrive, but when they turned the corner, I was already gone. Tsukachi POV. Today was the first day. I am out of the cast and already overwhelmed. I thought I had caught up with all the paperwork while in cast because I didn't go on patrol, but it seems to never end. Lately, there has been an increase in crime. Some new toxin has been circulating and more thugs are on the streets. I guess I will have to pull an all-nighter. Again, it was maybe 2 a.m. when we got a call. Some young girl got pulled into an alleyway and robbed at knife point when suddenly several black dogs and cats ran at the thug and bit him dozens of times. Following that, roughly 30 crows flew in and pecked the man half to death. He ran without taking a single thing from the girl, trying to get away. Yanami will have to catch some idiot, but it will probably be easy. He seems to have left a trail of vital fluid the girl explained before leaving in case he would come back. I am more worried to deal with some crazy animals. When we arrived, all we found the place, she told us, but we didn't see a single animal. All we found was an unconscious man matching the girl's description. Next to him was a knife he had, but just far enough he wouldn't reach it if he woke up. His binds were not rope, though. He was confined by some black chains. When we pointed our flashlights at them, they started to dissolve. Great, someone used their quirk on the poor man. Maybe the animals are quirked? Wouldn't be the first or last time this has been seen. If I am not mistaken, Eraser said something about a quirked black cat made from something that looks like condensed darkness. This would be a long night. Izuku POV. I feel amazing. I took out a criminal. Well, actually my little friends did, but I like to think that they are a part of me. I would put on some music to celebrate, but I still haven't charged my earphones, and I don't have a phone. I also don't have food and a bed, but I am dead. Besides some minor headaches when I am in the sun, I don't need these things. But if I want to do something when the sun shined, I will have to get used to the slight burning and lightheadedness and increase my tolerance. I do have one way to deal with those and my money problem. It might not seem much, but people are really careless with coins. From 1 yen coins dropped in the sidewalk to some 10 and 50 yen coins forgotten in vending machine change slots. And the sewers. So many people drop coins into sewer drains. It is crazy. It might not seem like much, but when you have rodents and birds in every corner of a huge city, it stacks up. Then there is all of the jewelry dropped everywhere. From earrings to necklaces and rings, but I feel like that would be concerning if a 12-year-old boy brought half a bathtub filled with expensive jewels to a pawn shop. Maybe the owner would think I have a quirk to find, or make them, in which case I would get in trouble for illegal quirk use. Or he would think I stole them and call the cops. Not great either way. The total in drop change is enough to buy myself the necessities and a lot more. It took 2 whole days for my shadows to collect most of the money, and I have a lot of friends. I went to the bank to exchange the coins for a little more. I bought myself a decent mattress, a cheap computer and phone, food, and some civilian clothes, so when I walked during the day, I wouldn't be recognized. Good thing that we live in a world where no one bats an eye at someone wearing a mask midday. During the day, I now usually visit either the library or the coffee shop nearby. These 2 places have nice and dark corners. I enjoy reading and learning new things, so I grab some books and chill in a corner for hours. Usually I read about fantasy and quirk history. I can charge my devices in there, and I can finally have my music again. I'm a regular at both places, and the employees are quite nice. Originally, I had to communicate using pen and paper, but the librarian lady gave me a pass, so I don't have to talk with anyone. She even custom printed it writing mute client, so it would be easier. As for the coffee place, they surprisingly have a girl who knows sign language. I was so happy. It has been a hassle ever since I died. Not being able to talk has been so annoying. The only issue is that the cafe is really warm and I have to wear a turtleneck or hoodie. Otherwise, my scar would be visible, and while I am not insecure about it, it could be a tell if my description went public. I wonder how much that thug could remember after the shock. F. Of course, it isn't an innocent little kitty that has a quirk due to some experiments. It just had to be a vigilante. It is either that or the poor dude was too embarrassed to admit that he was beaten by a bunch of wild animals. I don't have time to deal with this. If his description is accurate, this vigilante used animals made of smoke or something unknown to attack him. He says he tried to cut them down, but they vanished. And, of course, the man has no description of them. All he saw was someone on the street. He was running on away from the animals. The person had all black hoodie and cargo pants, a black mask, gloves and earphones, and dark red shoes. It was dark, and the unknown assailant had his hood up, so we don't know his hair color, eye color, or anything at all. The only thing we know is that they are short, most likely the size of a 13-year-old. But the one thing we know is that he had lots and lots of friends in the form of black animals. The man apparently fainted from the pain, but the doctors said that they were only minor injuries. It was fear. He called them the nightmare. So original. I checked the quirk databases dozens of times. Someone like that does not exist, yet I heard no lie during the interview. After the initial attack, the nightmare went silent for like a week. This does not make my job easier. Izuku POV. I was running through the darker streets after a break from my first villain encounter. I wanted for the cops to know my description, so I wouldn't be mixed up with the villains. Though they probably still don't trust me. I had received a warning by one of his shadows about a grocery store robbery in progress. Of course, I could just teleport, but the fresh air was just so satisfying. I also finally had music playing in his earphones. Besides, It is closed, there are no hostages. Currently, he was listening to Run Boy Run by Woodkid. Not my song. Show them some love and support. It is a great song. It was fun and fitting. Run Boy Run. This world is not made for you. Run Boy Run. They're trying to catch you. Run Boy Run. Running is a victory. Run Boy Run. Beauty lays behind the hills. Run Boy Run. The sun will be guiding you. Run Boy Run. They're dying to stop you. Run Boy Run. This race is a prophecy. Run Boy Run. Break out from society. I arrived at the crime scene to witness a hooded man running out of the store with what seems bags full of canned soup and some bread. That is the only thing the poor man stole. He probably has little to no money and couldn't afford food. The alarm and glass door are molten, though they must have triggered even if for a short moment, because my shadows say that a cop car just drove in our direction. I follow him with no sound. Being made of darkness helps with stealth a lot. Tomorrow is another day, and you won't have to hide away. You'll be a man, boy. But for now, it's time to run. It's time to run. Run, boy, run. This ride is a journey too. Run, boy, run. The secret inside of you. Run, boy, run. This race is a prophecy. Run, boy, run. And disappear in the trees. The man ran into an ally, then another, and another. After what seems like a solid 10 minutes of running in a maze, he finally stops and runs through a door. I follow him now in shadow full form till he reaches the rooftop. Tomorrow is another day, and you won't have to hide away. You'll be a man, boy. But for now, it's time to run. It's time to run. Tomorrow is another day, and when the night fades away, you'll be a man, boy. But for now, it's time to run. It's time to run. My song has stopped as I witness a sad scene. Dozens of empty food cans and water bottles. The man takes off his hood to reveal a black-haired man with dozens of scars. He has burned flesh all over his body, only held together by medical staples and a dream. He unpacks his bags and grabs a can. The man uses his quirk to make a blue flame at the tip of his finger. He is warming his food. At least he is not crazy. I decide to reveal myself, so I teleport back to the stairs and walk up a floor so he hears me. I arrive at the door and open it. My face meets his, and he looks shocked. He actually choked on his soup. Did he not hear me? I thought I was loud. That is what Mom always said. I just stand there. Within a few seconds, he clears his throat and yells, "Who are you? Where did you come from?" Oh no, I can't talk. Aren't you going to say anything, brat? He is still yelling and threw an empty can at me that I dodged. Nope. Screw this. I didn't think this through. I turn around to leave, but before I could fully open the door, he slams his fist next to my face, melting the door. I could run, but he might attack me next time he sees me, and I don't want an enemy with a fire quirk. If artificial light can hurt me, then I do not want to know what he could do if he sneaked up on me. My train of thought is stopped as he grabs my collar. Now I try to mouth, "I am sorry," and put my hands into an apology motion, but I don't think he saw any of it. He's just angry. Not gonna talk, huh? I saw that he was just rambling, so I did something. Something dumb. I slipped out of his hold by making myself more shadow than physical and stepped a bit back. He noticed and ran at me, yelling when I turned around and jumped to the roof, then turned into the darkness. The look in his eyes as he saw me jump, but when he ran by the edge, he didn't see my body falling or hit the floor. Then I was back on the roof, on top of the roof entrance sitting. He stared down for another solid minute before turning and mumbling, "What the?" Then he saw me. "What the?" A mix of confusion and terror in his voice was visible. He took a step back and tripped in the wrong direction. I had to teleport to the edge of the roof next to him and catch him so the dude wouldn't fall. I'm going to have so much fun with him. The poor guy just sat down, obviously panicked. "Who the hell are you?" You show up without noise, escape my hold, jump over a roof, somehow end up at the top of the entrance, and save me from falling by appearing in front of me while I fall after you gave me a heart attack. I only nod. I also have a grin under the mask, but he doesn't see it. "At least talk, you crazy." And he grabbed me by my throat and shook me a bit. Bad choice. The memories of Mother kicked in, and I went a bit apes hit. I kicked him in the guts, dug my nails in his hands, dozens of dark chains popped up, and pried him violently away from me, some around his burnt flesh. Two larger dogs also showed up that growled at him. I think I was having a panic attack. My chest tightened, I couldn't hear anything except my heartbeat. It was hard to breathe, so I ripped my mask off. My breathing was short and rapid. I felt like my hoodie was choking me like she did, so I pulled it away for my skin. He might have used his fire to get out of his chains, and my dogs disappeared due to the fire, and he was trying to say something. Dobby POV. This random dude showed up, scared the living hell out of me, didn't talk, and when I tried to shake him for answers, crazy, kicking me, and having some kind of dark chain suddenly bind me as some dogs appeared next to him. His breathing went nuts, and his eyes widened so much they went black somehow. He ripped his mask off. He's a kid. Then he tugged at his hoodie, trying to open up as much space around his neck as possible. The kid was hyperventilating. So much trembling and tears. I had to burn the chains, but they disappeared when my fire touched them. So did the dogs. Now here I am, next to the unknown attacker that managed to surprise me, escape my hold and scare the living hell out of me, only to have a panic attack. What am I supposed to do? This reminded me of Natsuo. Back when we were little, he was easily to scare and went into a state of panic when he was scared. Back then, all he needed was a distraction, so I carried something weird on me at all times. I have given him a wood toy, a pair of glasses, a spoon, a bag of sand, and once I gave him a single bean. After a while, he seemed to get better, not having any more panic attacks, so I stopped carrying interesting stuff. The kid's reaction was several times worse than Natsuo's, but the symptoms were similar. In a panic, I handed him a can of soup. Or I tried. Instead of grabbing it, he phased through my hand and the can. But the sight of the can might have been enough to get his mind out of whatever state he was as he stopped trembling. His eyes were at least somewhat normal, and tears stopped. He was still hyperventilating. Breathe, kid. Breathe. It took another couple of minutes for him to fully calm down, but when he was done, I decided to make a flame so I could properly see his face. The stars were not enough. He winced at the flame, so I kept it low. Now that I was looking at him, I could tell a number of things. He looked about 12, just like my little brother. He had black hair and eyes. Scratch that. He was completely black, except his skin, which was a sickening white. Like the kid had not stepped into the sun once his entire life. As I looked at him, he seemed to move back slowly from the light. You don't like the fire? The kid nodded. Why not say anything? He seemed to flinch at the question and avoid my eyes, but after a while he put his hands down from his black shirt, and a horrific scar around his throat was visible. Oh no, did me grabbing him there trigger his panic attack? Did I trigger some bad memories? I asked with a bit concern. He nodded his head several times. And that is why you don't talk. This time he hesitated but nodded again. Izuku POV. Great. I just showed this rando my most distinctive part. If he saw me, in civilian, he might not recognize me, but the scar is a clear giveaway. Then again, I ripped my mask off in a panic. Why did you follow me, kid? The guy asked. Then he face-palmed. Right? You mute. I shook my head, and he looked at me amused. I know how to communicate. I always have something to write on. But he might have issues reading in the dark, and I don't want him making his fire bigger. It already hurts a bit. I fished my phone out of my pocket and typed. I saw you steal food and thought you might need some help. He read the text and looked at me in a funny way. You thought I need help? Oh no, did I offend him? Kid, you're half my age, mute and flinch at light. You clearly need help more than me. The light is core drawback. Muteness is no big deal, and I have a lot of cash. So I thought that if I gave you some, you could buy food legally. The man stared a good 2 minutes at the text, then at me. Really? And where did you get all that money you're talking about? The streets, sewers, and trash. He looked at me, one eyebrow raised. So I summoned tens of mice and rats. We watched as they collected every empty can into a pile, then making a pyramid out of it. He turned his flame brighter to see it all. That hurt, so I backed away. It also made tens of my shadows vanish. Seeing that he instantly lowered the flame again. How many can you make? And how far can they travel away from you? Thousands. And they can go where there is no light. Only problem is that I have to be near for them to be made. Can't make them appear at the other side of town. But they can travel away from me. Okay, I will admit that is cool. So, you want to help me? Well, that too. I would also like someone to bother if I am bored. After he read that, he looked up to see my grin. Then he laughed. Count me in, kid. You got spunk. Awesome. What's your name? Call me Dobby, he responded with a kind smile. I am Kaguya. A little on the nose, don't you think? Dobby answered, clearly enjoying this. I just shrugged. We kept talking for the rest of the night. Or he talked, and I typed the answers on my phone. Dark mode is great. Sukachi POV. The entire police department was on edge. Now that we know to look out for animals made of pure darkness, we have found many all around the city. If we try to catch them, they vanish. There is one on every block, or maybe even more. There are so many it is terrifying. The only thing stopping them is light. It destroys them. We think, if they're used against us, then even if we were under a full moon, they could block out the sky for half the city. If the people found out that every cat, dog, and bird is most likely a drone for someone, it would cause mass panic. Most of us are paranoid that they could attack at any moment, and we would be dead in seconds. Thank God that the day makes them leave. Izuku POV. I was just sitting in the cafe, drinking my first cup of today, chatting with Dobby through text when I saw MT Lady walk in. I told him that I had to go and listen to her talk about some villains with the staff. She then proceeded to tell them how the villains took over the mall nearby, and she had to ask for backup because she couldn't transform without crushing people, and she had to put her hero costume on in the bathroom. I note this down. Then I waited for her to leave. I stayed for another couple hours before leaving like I would normally. I was ready to gain some blackmail material. I put my music on and went on a nice walk. Goes confetti. He didn't hear me enter the room. Take the recording of yesterday's attack and grab it. I knew that the authorities might need it to confirm info about the attack, so I copied all of the info over to my computer piece by piece, then copied it over to an external drive before continuing. It was not the fastest sneaky job in the world, but I was lacking a better piece of technology. Once finally done, I put it all back, and with my sound erased, I left. It has been 6 hours since my little heist, and I already found the exact time MT Lady came into the battle with suit and earpiece. Had she not mentioned that she had to change in the public bathroom, I wouldn't have known to look. With that, I just rewind the footage until a woman matching her build, hair, and eye color entered the bathroom. Boom! I know what her civilian identity looks like. Now all to do is find out her real name. That too was terrifyingly easy. All I had to do is look at the Hero School yearbooks 3 years prior to her first official debut. And I found her name. Like legal name. It is creepy how much can be found on the internet if you only know what you're looking for. Seriously, why tell useful information in public? Why talk about how you had to jump in combat while out of hero costume and say where you put it on? Anyone with a couple brain cells can find out what you look like out of costume. They do not have to find your real name. All they have to do is see you in public and threaten you. If you are held hostage in the middle of a crowd, you are helpless. Dumb woman. I will have to make sure that from now on all info I use gets deleted. I wrote all of the info down before putting it in the darkest part of the school, somewhere where no one could find it. The ventilation. MT Lady. Yu Takayama. I've been busy. With dozens of fights I have analyzed over the span of the last month, I have noted down every trick, advantage, and flaw in every fighting style of the heroes and villains. Using these, I made my extreme workout plan. Each night and day, for a whole 2 weeks, I have been doing nothing but train. My body is still frail, but since I don't technically need food, sleep, or breaks as long as I am in darkness, I can train nonstop. So I locked myself in the basement of the school. All I had to do was put down all distractions. I sent Dobby a text that I would be training and not by my phone for like 2 weeks, and if he needed some cash, I had some old jewelry I couldn't sell to anyone legally, but if he knew someone who wouldn't ask questions, he could have half the profits. Dobby has not committed any crimes ever since I've started providing him with money. I know because I have eyes everywhere. The guy's been keeping humble, not buying anything he didn't need. In return, he gave me useful connections in the underworld. He is an informant working with anyone who pays right for things he knows. Therefore, he was more than happy to introduce me with his line of work. I do have the perfect quirk for just that. Gathering information in the darkest parts of the city. That is where most interesting things happen after all. But now I had to stop learning about the gray zones of the law. I had an intense workout in front of me. In a week, there are 168 hours, in 336, and it takes roughly 100 hours to learn a skill. Considering I've been working on improving my martial arts skills with 0 breaks, I would say I can defend myself okay. I know how to do most things with my body structure. The rest I am not able to do because I am way too skinny. I have tried getting more mass, but I guess my death stopped that plan before it was made. Or maybe it is because I forget to eat. Now that I'm done with my technique, I have to make sure I do not die the moment I enter the light. First thing would be sleeping. I don't have to usually, but if I don't for too long, then I do feel tired the moment I am in the sun. Of course, it is not as bad as it would be if I was alive, but 2 weeks might be too much even for me. With it, I went to sleep. When I woke up, I called upon my friends to grab my hidden stash of uncooked ramen and several water bottles. I was going to eat several cold meals, but it is fine. I kind of have to force myself to act human while in the dark because I lose all of my natural necessities. When I had made sure that I wouldn't starve the second I walked out of the basement, I opened the doors. Going through the school felt weird. I was sure I did not leave it in such a mess. If I hadn't sent my shadows to check, I would have assumed that the heroes or some homeless people ravaged my home, but the only living being in here was Dobby. He was sitting in the middle of my room. I warned him that I was coming into the room using dozens of shadow dogs. Once he saw them, he made his flames small enough so they would not disappear. Then I walked in. As soon as he saw me, he freaked out, like screaming my name in all 5 stages of grief freaking out. Then he kept yelling questions. Where the hell were you? Do you know how worried I was? I thought my only friend was dead. You just disappeared. I might have been high, hallucinating, or just gone crazy, but I think he hugged me. The hell are you talking about? I had to ask my friends to bring me my pen and paper so I could answer. What happened? I told you I was off to train for 2 weeks. Then I'll be back. 2 weeks, my arse. It has been a month. What? Malik said it all. How the hell did you keep track of time? By asking the animals if the sun was up or not every couple of hours. Well, I think you did not even ask once a day. I don't even know how you can have such a bad feel for time. I guess time is weird, even when not in the abyss, but only darkness. I have been on the streets again. Many thugs have been walking around the city, robbing people. They were no real challenge for my friends and me. I decided to have a more hands-on approach, so I would gain experience through fights and not only training. After all, I do not want to be helpless the moment I have to fight someone who knows martial arts better than me. All I had to do is distract them from the victims with chains or animals. Then I would use all I have learned from all the training. These guys are not trained at all. The moment I hit the weapon out of their hands, they resort to quirk use. The quirks they have could be strong if trained right, but they are nothing more than bumbling idiots. The last guy I fought could turn plastic into spikes that can cut through steel. He could have fought by throwing bottles at his enemy and ton them into spikes the last second and beat his enemies with the element of surprise. Or let his enemies catch them and then make them into spikes, piercing their hands. Instead, he used his power to make knives to rob people with. Once he ran out, he just tried to run. The guy before him had a mutation quirk that made him into an armadillo. He used it to roll downhill faster. Seriously? You have an almost perfect defense, and you use it to go down faster? Like, at least try to learn close combat, and using the fact you do not have to worry about your biggest blind spot. Within 2 days, I have taken down more than 13 villains. I started waiting till the cops arrived by the crime scene and let them see me for less than a second in their peripheral vision like an unnerving shadow. Let them see me, but never properly meet me. It has been a good while since I have been in the cafe and library. Lately, I have been spending more time with dabs in the underworld part of town. Their villains and underground heroes can get info. I like finding things out, and Dobby makes sure the clients receive the knowledge I provide for the right price. He knows my moral code and how I feel about people who do illegal things because they like to and are not forced by fate. If he finds that kind of people, he gives me an opportunity to take them down and locked up. That is how I ended up in this situation. In front of me is a pretty well-known villain named Muscular. Dobby had supplied some info broker named Jiren about an international illegal trade crew I recently spied on, and he told Dobby about some strong dude who's going to Mustafu to kill some tough heroes. Jiren mentioned something about him being bad for business because he attacks without thinking and often doing more damage to his own allies than the enemy. So I went there to remove him from the streets. What I didn't expect was that he would lure out the rescue hero's water hose by starting several fires. I knew that they were strong, but he was crazy to lure them out when other heroes were not far. Nonetheless, it was bad. Civilians all around panicking, couple buildings burning, people dying. And the heroes were losing. The fires weakened my powers, but chilling with Dobby plus the help of the firemen helped. The two heroes were alive, but hurt badly. Most likely about to pass out from the vital fluid loss. Muscular was staring with a big grin. This was no man, but monster. I was above the battlefield, standing on a large eagle, silently fanboying about the half-dead heroes. The burnings made a sort of arena by falling down and making a barrier. I called upon my strongest shadows to break through the blockade, to make an opening for those who could walk. Several horses with black chains connected to the debris pulled away. I jumped down, reaching the battlefield with a loud thud. I didn't do it for the dramatic effect, but for the distraction. And it worked. Muscular whipped around and stared at me for like half a second before screaming, "Who the hell are you?" Using that distraction, I made chains that pulled the wounded water hose heroes away from the villain. It did not go unnoticed. "You're not going anywhere," he yelled, but using his own shadow, I held his arm with the biggest chain I could muster up. Instantly, he knew it was my doing and rushed at me. My animals had made an opening for the civilians, so I turned them into gorillas. They started lifting the wounded and carrying them out. Muscular was not exactly hard to dodge. I did have a lot more darkness than before as the fire was disappearing. I was landing some okay, hits even. The one time he managed to feign an attack perfectly and hit me, I was too close to the fire. I half blocked the attack to my ribs, but still flew back several meters. I only stopped because my eagle swooped down to catch me before I crashed into the rubble. Bleeding for a good minute, I counted my wounds. One of my ribs was broken, and so was my arm that I blocked with. Coughing up, and for a second, I felt like I was going to die again. Then I was thrown in the dark, and my wounds fixed themselves. The villain was giving some monologue about how he wanted to fight someone strong, but he was disappointed, but I would lie if I said I was listening. I am no hero and lack experience. I am not dumb enough to not know that. That was why I was not fighting, but stalling. More heroes would arrive soon. Until then, I cold helped save. People install him. We kept dancing like that for several more minutes. Most of the civilians gone and the heroes arriving to clear the area. The police also arrived in full SWAT gear. Several of them noticed my animals helping people, and I think they recognized them because they kept saying that the nightmare is here helping. Then they saw me, and their theories seemed to be confirmed. The combined forces were closing into the battle. Helicopters passed overhead with light beams. They weakened me, but I was not that worried. If it wasn't for the fact that he saw I was not listening, he might not have realized I was doing other things. Once he noticed, though, he changed his tone. He started aiming for the cops and civilians. The heroes tried to shide them, but their movement was halted. Now I was a bit annoyed. I was playing distraction so well, and he was ignoring me? Was I not good enough? No, I was not a bit annoyed. I was pissed. Using the darkness, I made several nets to catch the biggest rocks he threw. He looked at me with a "You're still here?" look, and he scoffed at me. "Aren't you like weak against the light? These cops are already shining enough light to make wounds do damage, right? And your little friends don't seem to like the light as well. You ruined my fun fight and stalled enough, so skedaddle. You are no longer needed." I took that personally. I really did. This entire fight, I had to save people, hold them off, and make sure no one was hurt or killed from the collateral damage. Now that the heroes arrived, I was no longer interesting. F that. I was so pissed, I made all of my strong animals wantish and called some of my other friends. More precisely, every crow I had in the entire city. I never counted, but I knew I had a lot. I proceeded to block out the sky, the fire, the heroes, and everything else except me and him. A flying cage of shadow birds. It was pure darkness and silence. My friends made no sound while flying. The pitch black was the perfect condition for me to summon more friends. I had an infinite source of darkness. It was literally pure darkness, almost as dark as the abyss. Muscular didn't see anything because he did not have a sight quirk, but he ran randomly around punching the air. If he hit the cage, he was met with sharp beaks and claws ripping parts of his flesh off. The light outside the dark cage made many birds disappear, but true darkness let me replace every lost ally with 5 more. No one could get in or out. He was panicking, but he stood, not wanting to get put into the bird blender again. He waited for me. He kept yelling for me to say something. I think he didn't like the darkness and the silence. It took only a moment, but without warning, every punch I threw damaged the man. His counters hit only to heal faster than he could land the next. But I was gone by then anyway. The unnerving feeling that I could be anywhere, that the birds could be anywhere, made him freak out. He ran straight with the hope to hit me or exit the cage. Instead, I met him with a knee to the chin, then a kick to the side of his head, and lastly a punch to the bridge of his nose. He was down. With that, I teleported out of the area and let my birds fly into the night. I went home. Our favorite detective POV. Are you kidding me? The nightmare that stopped low-level thugs just a few days ago turned up to a massive fight and threw hands with an A-rank villain, and he won. The moment I arrived and saw the shadow animals, I knew it was him, but actually seeing the rumored vigilante instead of him being on the edge of my vision every time we arrived to clean after him up was a new level of weird. Then to also see him fight. The dude was holding back while fighting for his life because he was helping people. Once he saw that all people were gone, he showed his true colors. So many crows. The horde just grew. We tried several light sources, but they did not stop coming. For 10 minutes, there was nothing to do. We stopped the fire and rescued the last wounded, but no matter what we did, no one knew what was happening inside. Then it was gone. Birds flying away. Nightmare missing and an unconscious Muscular. They had so many scrapes and claw marks like he had punched the blades of a turn-on blender. Just like the rest of the criminals that fought him, Muscular reported the same description and the fact that the Nightmare refused to speak. Not that we didn't know that, because he had to be seen by some news helicopters. My phone has been blowing up ever since the videos started circulating. He spread like wildfire in terms of popularity. My higher-ups want to arrest or rehab him and turn him hero. And I have been drowning in paperwork because of him. I need a nap. Izuku POV. Well, that went well. Dobby yelled once I walked into the little bar we co-own. Yeah, we bought a bar. It is mostly for him to live at and trade info. It is our personal location, and our clients know where to find us. I grabbed my phone the moment he said that. What went well? Your fight with Muscular, of course. The man practically yelled. How do you know that? Dabs looked dumbfounded by that question. The news station had a helicopter broadcasting the entire fight. Did you not notice it? I was a bit busy. The scarred man laughed at my response. You can say that again. From there, our conversation went down the business route. I finally went back to the cafe. The staff seemed glad to see me. I think they missed me. They said that they were worried because I never go a week without coming in here. I had never given them my name, so they always call me funny nicknames, and I liked that tradition. It was sweet, and I did miss their coffee. It was also the only place beside the library where I wasn't getting constantly questioned why I wasn't at school, home, etc. I bought myself a nice warm coffee and just chilled in my little brooding corner, as they called it. I told them I was at my grandparents' across the country. Me and the nice girl who knows sign language chatted for a bit before she went back to work. She is a bit like a big sister to me. And the owners are such a sweet couple, always asking if I need anything. Just wholesome. I was just chilling on top of a roof in my vigilante suit, listening to AC/DC when I felt a pair of eyes staring straight at me. My shadows said that a certain four-armed man was staring straight at me. Being in a good mood, I decided to greet the hero, so I jumped down into the ally and walked out on the dark street. There he stood, both pairs of arms crossed. He seemed mad, but not in an angry way, more like a disappointed parent way. He seemed a little bit surprised that I showed up, but he quickly masked his shock with a slightly less mad face than before. If this was a trap, I had more than enough shadows nearby to help me out. I looked at the hero challengingly, so he started talking. Nightmare, you seem like an okay guy, saving lives and all, but I have to say, you are disappointing. I turned my head in confusion. I had never interacted with him before, so what was he talking about? He wasn't continuing, so I signed a simple what? I didn't know if the man in front of me knew sign language, but I had the suspicion that he knew it. I mean, the man visits disabled children's hospitals, elderly homes, and orphanages in his free time to help out. He was bound to learn the basics at least. So you can communicate. He replied with a sharp tone. Correct. I never said I couldn't. True, but you never talk, and no one has seen you do hand signs. I usually do not have conversations. All right, let's talk business. I want you to help the community with that quirk of yours. I want you to use your animals to clean the nearby woods of any trash. There's way too much of it. This took me by surprise. A hero was suggesting me to use my quirk illegally. Are you, a hero, asking me to commit vigilantism? That is not hero-like. He seemed amused by my blatant sarcasm. The slightly scary hero started laughing. Ha ha, you got me there. I guess that isn't very hero-like. But for real now, I am investigating a company named Hazmat. They do trash collecting. They say that they dispose of it in a safe way, but I think that they are burying it in the woods. The company has 2 trash disposal sites on paper, but I have not seen them work in months. And many of their trucks are driving near the woods. It is private property, and I lack evidence to get a warrant. The national park close to it has been looking horrible, most likely due to poisoning. If you can bring us proof, we can save the trees there. The man had a compelling argument, and I was going to agree, but I needed a few more answers. But before I could ask any of them, he interrupted my train of thought. By the way, got a better name than Nightmare? It seems excessive. Yeah, no one asked before except one person, and I was called Nightmare because the villains like to be dramatic and the news go with the drama flow. The name's Kaguya. It is a pleasure. Likewise. Anyways, why me? You could have paid a private investigator, and you wouldn't get in trouble if someone found out. But if it comes to light that you asked me, then you could lose your hero license. Loads of paperwork saved. If I hire someone, then I will have to present the proof, and we'll have to deal with all the paperwork. But if you do it, then the police on your case will have to do it. They're trained to deal with that, and will be faster than me. And I will have more time to help the community. He spat out without even thinking, probably saying several things that could get him in trouble. Whoa, brutally honest. Fair. And why the rude start of the conversation? Why call someone disappointing if you're going to ask them for help? This time he hesitated. The man looked nervous. I kind of hoped that it would make you want to prove me wrong. I feared that you would decline, but I really need some help on this case. That is just suspicious. But whatever. The hero has his reasons. Fine, I will help. Thank you, Kaguya. He half yelled before giving me a handshake. That was very weird. But Kugu POV. I was watching the news in the middle of the night because I couldn't sleep when they were showing the attack on Mustafu. Seeing these great heroes loose made my blood boil. Water Hose was a duel made in heaven, and here they were, getting crushed by some muscle freak. They were at death's door when this cool emo dude jumped down from who knows where. Muscular yelled at this new guy, so he obviously was not the villain's ally. While talking, the almost dead heroes were pulled away by some black chains, and as soon as the freak saw this, a fight started. Well, it was more that the new dude was dodging all attacks as more things made out of the same thing as the chain started forming. They seemed to be animals, and they helped with rescue. Must be some underground support hero. Deku would probably know his hero name. Why can't I get him out of my mind? It has been months. Why do I have to suffer because of him? Anyways, it seemed like the new guy was stalling, but also putting up a pretty good fight, when without any warning Muscular faked an attack, and landed a hit almost directly to his ribs. The only thing saving the masked man from death was the half-ass block he put up. It seemed that the new cool guy was out for the count, getting thrown into the fiery rubble when a massive bird made out of the same kind of shadow as the rest of his friends swooped down. It caught him and threw him in the darkest part of the makeshift arena. Then his slightly unnaturally twisted arm went back to normal, and the patch of vital fluid forming where he was hit disappeared. So he can control the dark and heal with it. That is so OP. Muscular kept blabbering about how he was looking for a good fight, and that the water heroes or the new guy was not good enough, but the hero said no word. Actually, he hadn't said a single word. After some more taunting and the police arriving with backup, Muscular basically told hit enemy to screw off like he was just a bug. Out of nowhere, hundreds of blackbirds flew around, blocking out all the light and encasing the villain and hero in a ball. The other heroes and cops tried to get in, but nothing worked. It even started to grow. After 10 or so minute, they dispersed, only leaving an unconscious villain with his enemy nowhere to be seen. Badass. I'll have to check tomorrow's news to find this guy's name. Maybe he has merch. Izuku POV. It has been 3 days since Fourth Kind asked me for help, and I've been noting down every route, truck, and employee. The more I am finding out, the more fishy this whole organization seems. The trash that they clean up can be biological, acidic, radioactive, and they still wear the same gear, which is dangerous. Hazmat trucks have changeable number plates, which are totally illegal. They lack the containment equipment to safely transport several kinds of waste. And based on the city camera system I access, though a lot of struggle, at least once a month all the trucks seem to leave and drive to another city. Small infringements that add up to a lot of legal trouble. They could get sued, but the city does nothing. Hazmat is a private contractor hired by the mayor, possibly a way to cheaply get rid of the waste and act like the streets are safely cleaned. And the rest of the taxpayer money goes to an offshore account, maybe. Who knows? But the mayor isn't on it, so corruption is evident. I'm starting to see why Fourth Kind asked me, a vigilante, to get the proof. By the time I actually went to check out their base of operations, I had more than enough to get them shut down and the owners arrested. The woods were in a bad shape. I saw massive gray buildings and warehouses. For a trash disposal company, they had a lot of security. It was weird, but I already expected it to be a front for like a meth lab. The thing I didn't expect was something far more horrific. With darkness everywhere, it was easy to sneak in. But then I saw them. Humans. Dozens of tied-up humans. Crammed in small cells and chained to the wall. I felt a knot twist in my stomach. These guys are human traffickers. The cells were dark since it was nearing midnight. People that are held here are sick, malnourished, and some are even intoxicated. I wanted to vomit, but I stayed strong. These people needed help. I had to get back and tell the heroes what is happening. I took a lot of photos. As I was teleporting, I left several of the smallest shadows I could make. Mice. Using them, I listened in for any information, but I was not met with good news. Several men clad in black seemed to be working on the trucks. They kept talking about how in 2 days they would leave again. Oh no, the once-a-month drive they make. Most likely when they will drive the kidnapped people away to the client. I teleported through the darkness till I reached some office. It was empty, so I placed some lookouts by the hallway that connected to this room and started searching for any information. I landed on a journal where I saw checklists of what kind of people they had to kidnap. Age, gender, quirk, etc. It also had a bunch of initials by every person. Probably the client that ordered that particular kit of person. There was a BM, QB, Doc, DT, KP, Love, and a few more. It also had a list of locations where they would meet their associates. They were going all over the country and possibly even out of Japan, since some of the locations were at the docks. I had all I needed, so I used the dark to teleport out of there. Once home, I copied all of the photos on an untraceable USB stick together with a document where I wrote down all the info I had and a meeting place in case they needed some more info. It was a neutral bar in the underground. I signed it as Nightmare. Then I tied it to one of my bigger dogs and sent him to the police station where my favorite insomniac detective was. The moment he saw the dog, he froze. I probably didn't do him any favors with my stun against Muscular. Sukachi POV. Finally, for the first time, Nightmare brought us something good. He didn't cause me more paperwork. Directly, at least. But why did it have to be him to find all the missing people? We have been searching for weeks, as more and more have disappeared. The investigation has been going on for years, but as soon as he took a look, things were found out. At least we can finally stop monsters. But first, I will need some answers. Bakugu POV. I had a blast researching about the mystery guy once the news revealed that he was a vigilante. His name is Nightmare, and he has been saving people for weeks. High animals have been looking over the streets for much longer, though. He has an awesome quirk, and he's known to leave all criminals crying or unconscious. He saves people from the shadows and deals with thugs by making shadow animals and chains that stop them. Screw support, the guy doesn't seem to have clear limit on how many things he can make. He could be a top 10, but it seems he would rather work outside of the law. Sadly, he doesn't have any merch yet, but since his first public appearance was yesterday, the merch might appear soon. I wish I could meet him one day. Izuku POV. I have been to places that are called the gray zones often enough, thanks to dabs, but it doesn't change the fact that it is creepy. It is in a back room of a bar next to a massive shopping center. The best hid places are those right under one's nose after all. The owner seems to have money. Lots of it. The price wasn't crazy, but the amount of gold decorations made me question their quality. So either he is a fraud, acting like a big shot, or he has a lot of traffic. And I know that the bar is dry for most of the time. I made sure to have a list of people that are allowed to enter. It really only had the one detective who seems to be on my case based on the amount of times he has arrived at the crime scene when I am involved. I also gave the green light for the cat guy cop. He seems nice. And if they have anyone else, then they get kicked out. Easy. After sitting for an hour and being offered a drink several times, which I refused, being underage, the detective finally arrived. Alone, though not fully. The undercover bus was located in the best lit parking spot of them all. Smart, but one of my animals was long in the bus before it left the police station. They didn't check there, and the bus had more than enough shadows. I also counted 10 armed officers with guns and strong lights scattered in the well-lit mall acting like civilians. With them were a couple of heroes too. I know that because they too arrived in mass police buses. A dead giveaway to anyone who knows every number plate of the police's cars. Their garage is not well lit. I made myself a mental list to steal the recordings of the cameras. The cop bowed in a respectful way, probably trying to butter me up, and sat down. Sukachi POV. This bar might have the reputation for being a gray zone in the underworld, but when the owner of the place is the best undercover agent in the country, it doesn't get much more one-colored. This guy is surrounded by heroes and police officers, and he doesn't even know because we made sure to only be in light. Plus, he organized the meeting in the evening, so the mall is packed. It shows how inexperienced he is. He is probably in a rush to give more information about Hazmat. Good intentions? Maybe, but getting him off the streets will do good. Having this meeting is killing 2 birds with 1 stone. We can find more out about Hazmat and stop a vigilante. Our special light bulbs that can be turned on by 600% will stop him from teleporting, and if he tries to leave with force, we have Eraserhead, MT Lady, Kimui Wood, and Death Arms plus several officers. He is trapped. The moment I walked through the door, I bowed and introduced myself. We estimated that he knows most of our names and faces through his animals, so the elite rescue team are out of city. He remained quiet, like always, but I got a head nod and a gesture to sit next to him. Once I sat down, he reached for his pocket. My instincts were screaming danger, but what he pulled out took me by surprise. He took a phone out. Who starts an info sharing session doing that? That is so weird. Probably his first time being an info broker. Then he turned it on and put on text-to-speech. Never mind. He is just going the extra mile to not talk. Detective, it is an honor to finally meet the man tasked on dealing with me. I apologize for all the paperwork I have given you. And I apologize for any future sleepless, paperwork-filled nights I will cause. I hope you can see past that for the greater good of the city. The honor is all mine. Meeting the man who eliminated one of the strongest villains in the country. As for the vigilantism, I will have to arrest you one day. But today we have to save a lot more people. The kidnapped take priority. Of course, I fully understand. Since my last message, I have compiled the less urgent information. I hope that you use my results to warn the heroes in the cities where the vehicles are going. Lying. Such a simple tool to fool those who are naive. Nightmare had his mask and hood on, but I could feel the smug smile he had after hearing that he wasn't a priority. If only he talked, then I could see if he is lying as well. But I don't need to touch him, and he has gloves on. So, what kind of information have you collected beside all of the things that you already brought? Simple things, really. Truck plate numbers, number of employees, pictures of the higher-ranked ones, the quirks of roughly 90% of the goons there, some of the kidnapped people's identities, and a list of those who will be transported tomorrow. Then he handed me a folder filled with so many pages filled with greatly detailed information. He even had the blueprints to the base and trucks. What? How? When? That kind of information gathering takes months. Maybe weeks, as you have an insider. But it has been roughly 16 hours. Impressive. That will greatly help with the raid. We will take care of the rest. Really? Okay. I know it isn't enough information to shut the entire organization down, but if you don't need any more help, then I will excuse myself. This struck me as odd. Why would that not be enough? I have to ask, what do you mean? Is there more to be found? In that moment, he looked at me like I was stupid. Then something must have clicked in his brain because he seemed to calm down. Tell me, detective, if a hero was to find all of this information out with illegal methods, what would happen? Especially if they're a small-time hero. F it. I pried too much, and he'd change the topic. If I don't answer, he might not cooperate. He now knows I lack some critical information, and he has a valuable bargaining chip. Well, I suppose they would get praised as heroes by the civilians, but they would lose their licenses or get punished severely at the bare minimum. Doing so much illegal information gathering is too much any hero not in the top 10, and even they would be harshly punished. For entering property without a warrant, but also the amount of privacy breaches would be enough to lose the license. And the Hero Commission might want to swipe the fact under the rug that they hadn't found this massive human trafficking ring, but a single hero did it by just breaking the law. Otherwise, the civilians might turn more to vigilantism. Then it clicked for me as well. Because he didn't have a license and only contacted the police, he stopped a mass panic and a crazy wave of vigilantism before it even started. If I didn't have a squad of people ready to take him down, I would love to work with him. He's a genius. Maybe he can be part of the vigilante rehab program. Very well. If that is the case, then I guess I can help people by sharing my speculations with you. Firstly, the reason why you have not caught them yet is because they have someone important to cover for them. They would have been found out if a single safety test was made at any of their locations. These tests are mandatory by the law of Japan. But there are people who can deal with inspectors if they are in high enough positions. They are also private contractors. They work for the city because the mayor hired them. He could in theory pardon them from any safety checks. So either he is part of the organization with them, he takes bribes, or he received orders from above. None of the options are good. Secondly, Hazmat is not the kidnapping party. They are a mere storage unit. They do not kidnap the people, and they don't sell them. Hazmat is only a stop in the long journey. They keep logs on how long they have every person. They keep them so long until they die or get transported to the client. And they are most likely only one of several places where humans are held till sold. They're the equivalent of a holding cell in the police station before driven off to court or prison. If they're the only storage, then the mastermind is an idiot. Putting all of his merch in one spot is dumb, and putting mostly weak people at the location is bad for business. But if this is just an isolated location, meant to be found someday to throw the trail off their larger and more important locations, then it is perfect. Employees not dumb enough to expose themselves, but smart enough to not damage the little amount of merch they have or endanger their main clients. If that is the case, then we might be dealing with an international organization, and this location, compared to a drag operation, is nothing more than a street seller. Sooner or later he will be caught, but all he knows is a fake name and the number of the local dealer's burner he already threw away. This is so much more than a simple human trafficking ring. It is a full-out international scheme. So, you're saying that we are just doing what the mastermind wants? Yep. You know, we could really use someone like you in our ranks. You could join our little rehab system and have the same networks we have. You could work together with our best and help us stop these guys. I need to ask you a question, sir. How can I help? Is trust a big part of the job? I mean your job. This question felt odd, like he was onto something. Yes, it is. Then I fear neither of us right for it. Oh no, he knows. I want to push the hidden button in my sleeve to turn the lights on, but he was faster. A black knife appeared in his hand and was pointed to my throat. If I turned the light on, the shadow under chin would shield the blade, and I'd be dead. But then it flew away. I pressed the button, and a strong light appeared, but just as fast as it appeared, it vanished, following a loud shatter. He threw the blade at the lamp. It wasn't strong enough to make it disappear. We sat in darkness. I knew that my allies were seconds away, but I was a dead man. I had betrayed the man who made Muscular's hands look like they had been put in a blender. I heard a thump, and half a second later the team busted the door down and turned blindingly strong lights on. All that was left was an old phone on the table. It was different than the one he used. A device for communication. On the screen was one message. Better luck next time. So, this was the end of part 1 of this series. Stay tuned for next part of this series, and if you like this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel. Until next time.